Hey everyone, Nate here. I hope you're all having a nice day. I'm going to talk Celtics-Hawks for a bit, feel free to stick around. Boston is up 1-0 after a statement Game 1 win over Atlanta. In classic Celtics fashion, they jumped out to a massive 30-point lead at halftime just for it to be walked down to 12 after they'd taken their foot off the gas. But it was an impressive win regardless and reaffirmed some of my thoughts prior to the series. Game 1 is a feel-out game as both teams try to get a sense of what their opponent's strategy is. Both teams are going to adjust, but we saw a few things that the Hawks may struggle to work around. I laid it out in my series preview, but the biggest factors that have held true so far are the Hawks' defensive inefficiencies and the relative ease in which the Celtics can exploit them. Conversely, the defensive versatility for Boston in both the matchups they can take on and the coverages they're able to deploy. Let's jump right in. Starting with the Hawks defense, I had two clear worries for Atlanta: how they would approach finding a hiding spot for Trae, and how would the Hawks double bigs handle being spaced out to the perimeter. It's Game 1, I'm not going to go overboard, but those both played in Boston's favor. As we discussed, Trae took on the Derek White matchup. Derek responded with a 24-point, 7-assist masterpiece, outplaying Young on both ends. White understood the assignment here. He attacked Trae relentlessly, putting him in the action as ball handler or as a screener. He even took him off the dribble in isolation. Again, I question what you're supposed to do if the best hiding spot you can find can go get an efficient 24 with that matchup. I have thoughts, I suppose, but this is one of those times where I'll just sit back and learn from the professionals. Quinn Snyder has to have something up his sleeve, a trap, a scram switch, anything, because allowing Derek White free range to go to work is not going to be successful. I'll let that go for now. Issue number 2. Forcing the Hawks starting bigs to stretch out to the perimeter was 1. Difficult for them, and 2. Harmful to the Hawks' interior defense. Funny enough, I would argue that this was more compromising to their defense than Trae's struggles. With Horford dragging them out to either the wing or the corner, there's nobody capable of rotating to take away a drive from Brown or Tatum. That becomes an even bigger problem when the Hawks' wing defenders are getting dusted off the dribble. I cut them a bit of slack. It's an impossible task for Capella and Collins to get switched on any Celtics ball handler, but it's bound to happen when Horford or Rob is the lone big on the floor. Side note here, but for that reason, I'll be keeping an eye on the frequency at which the Celtics go to their double bigs. It wasn't very effective last game. That could always change, but I think it's a matchup where having as much spacing as possible matters. Rob still has the ability to drag the bigs out of the paint when he's operating as a playmaker as well. Moving on to the other talking point for this video, the Celtics defense really stepped up and flexed their muscles from the start. Very literally, with Jalen getting a pick 6 on the Hawks' very first possession. Individually, I was happy to see Marcus Smart turn it up a notch. He came up with 3 steals and 2 blocks, including a big-time pass breakup at the rim. Rob had a soul-crushing block on Jalen Johnson, and his presence was felt as well. And just as he has all season, Derek White met the challenge defensively and took Trae out of rhythm. It's criminal that he's going to miss out on a first-team all-defense spot, but that's a conversation for another day. What I will touch on is that the Celtics primarily stayed in a drop against Trae pick and rolls, allowing him to get into that mid-range floater area, but working to stay in the play. Derek was the one to kickstart this, getting that block on Trae at the rim after recovering. What I like about this play specifically is that Horford is so high in his coverage, nearly at the level of the screen, that he could reasonably switch if necessary. This takes away the pull-up 3, and the only real window is a baseline pull-up, which we see DeJounte take advantage of here. Now that's a great shot, but it's an undeniably difficult and low percentage look that the Celtics will live with every single time. Staying in a drop invited the Hawks into the mid-range, and as expected, DeJounte had no problem accepting that. He got his from time to time, but the help defense, typically from Derek White, tightened up that space. He'd even leave Trae completely at times, prepared to recover if necessary, but aware of the scouting report. Something that really interested me, and I touched on last time, was the pre-switching we saw on back-to-back possessions from Boston when Atlanta tried to get a bit more strategic, attempting to hunt specific players. First, notice the matchups. Brogdon is on Trey, Smart has Jalen Johnson, and Hauser has Bey. The Hawks want to get Hauser switched onto Trey, so Bey comes up to set a screen. As that happens though, Hauser and Smart switch, keeping Sam out of the action and getting Smart on Trey. The Hawks aren't done hunting Hauser though. This time Johnson comes as a screener. It looks like Boston is going to give that up, then boom, Smart jumps out for the trap and sticks with Trey. 10 seconds left on the shot clock now, Atlanta resets, and here comes Okongwu to bring Rob into the action. But wait, Rob pre-switches with Brogdon. Trey doesn't want that matchup and waves him off. Now, there's 5 seconds left on the shot clock, and they're going back to Hauser. Once again, they go for the trap. This time Johnson rolls out quicker, and Smart bails them out a bit with a kick ball. That's an entire shot clock wasted trying to hunt out a matchup, and not a single advantage was created. Immediately after that, Mazzulla subs in White for Hauser. Now it's like, shit, who can we hunt? Trey lands on Rob Williams here, calling Johnson and Okongwu to screen so Boston can't pre-switch it. Or so they thought. Smart identifies it and immediately sprints to Okongwu, telling Rob to drop down. Trey settles for Brogdon here, who gets a great contest from behind. Once again, we see a slight bailout with Rob fouling on the rebound. Neither of these possessions ended in a stop, but I believe they both show exactly how difficult it can be for the Hawks to find a true advantage against the Celtics defense, along with how much the Celtics plan to make them work for one. Overall, it's important not to overreact to Game 1. 3-point shooting isn't a strength for Atlanta, but they shouldn't shoot 17% from distance again. There are plenty of adjustments for them to try as well, but some of my doubts have been reaffirmed, and my Celtics sweep prediction hasn't been swayed. That's all for me today. Let me know how you're feeling after Game 1 and what pathways you see for Atlanta to adjust. Take care.